evening and welcome to the program tonight. Meet your leaders. Tonight we'll be looking at the performance of the new Dawn government so far, and to help us, undertake the discussion. Our guest tonight is Mr. Thabo Kawana, Minister of Information and Media Director. And my name is Chaza. I'll be together with my co-host Lance Sani Banda. Lance, good evening, and how are you doing?
Good evening, Chaza. Thank you, and good evening to our guest as well as the viewers. I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well as well, and it's definitely a good evening, just like any other Wednesday evening. I'm glad to be with you here.
Definitely glad to be in your company as well, and looking forward to having a fruitful deliberation with our guest this evening. Plus, also to our viewers, a studio link will be shared with you in the comments where you will be coming through into the studio after some time, as well as you can leave us a comment underneath this broadcast. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and follow our Facebook page, as well as follow us on Twitter, so that each and every time Ubuntu channel is live, you get to be updated and you get to have a link so that you follow deliberations as they go. Thank you so much, Chaza.
Beautiful. Just like I earlier indicated, tonight our guest is Mr. Thabo Kawana, the Media Director, Ministry of Information. Mr. Kawana, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Chaza. Good evening, Mr. Banda, and good evening to all the viewers. I'm glad to be here. I'm grateful for the invitation, and hope to have a good discourse.
It is our honor to actually host you right on our program. And first things first, at this point in time, I would like you to actually give us, a brief background, an in-depth introduction about yourself. Who is Mr. Thabo Kawana?
Well, Mr. Thabo Kawana is simply put a Zambian. I work for the government of the Republic of Zambia in the Ministry of Information and Media. I am Director Media spokesperson there, and we originally come from the Copper Belt, and now we are in Lusaka. I'm a family man. I'm a politician, come civil servant now, and giving out information is what we do.
Beautiful. And information indeed. We need an in-depth information as regards the new Dawn government so far from the time that, you came into office. Would like to find out where we are, the campaign promises, and the achievements so far. I'd like to bring you to the fore as regards the economy right now. It was promised that the economy would definitely get to improve, and we hear citizens, the common man out there on the street, still complaining that the economy is not doing fine. What is your take, your feedback as regards this issue as government?
Well, to start with, we accept that the economy is not doing fine, but we are working hard to ensure that we turn around things. And we found a very broken economy, nothing to write home about. We found an empty treasury, and we had to start from scratch. And we found that the country was highly indebted. You know that our colleagues that we took over from borrowed and over borrowed. And the money that was borrowed was intended to be put in projects that would generate income and be able to pay itself back. But of course, the money was embezzled and literally outright stolen. These are bonds that we got, like the Euro bond and many other loans, like from China. Some of them were meant to, for example, buy new coaches for the rail, for our Zambia Railways. and also rehabilitate the rail lines, and also buy more cargo coaches to ensure that we move all the cargo from the roads onto the rail lines and extend the rail lines from Livingstone all the way to Solwezi. But of course, when the money was given, all that became a fallacy. Nothing was done, but money was spent, and nobody knows where it was spent. But of course, we have waged a serious, vigorous campaign against corruption, and all those that had anything to do with this money and where they took it will be brought to book and will be able to answer to the law. Currently, we are working hard to turn around the economy by introducing serious financial discipline in the way we do things, by sticking to the budget, and we are spending according to the budget, and we are making sure that the fundamentals are being worked on. I think you have noticed that so far the exchange rate has stabilized and coming down, and the kwacha is assuming a bully stature where it is getting stronger by the day. We are now at 16 kwacha to a dollar. Our kwacha is even stronger than that of the rand. It's stronger than most of the currencies around our neighbors. And also, we have fought hard inflation rate that we found at almost 22%. We have brought down the inflation rate to single digits. All this we have been able to do within the space of 9 months. And so we are pushing forward. We are very, very hopeful that our discussions will be fruitful with the people that we owe money. We are also very, very positive that we will be able to be accepted onto the IMF program. And this is a program that will restore the credibility of the country. And so far, our president, who is the chief marketing officer for the country, has done a tremendous job. And international credibility has been restored. And we have a lot of international cooperating partners coming on board to help us and injecting also money directly into certain aspects of our budget. And we are on course. It is safe to say that yes, cost of living is still high, but as you know, cost of living is high everywhere, including where you are. But we are working very hard to ensure that we ameliorate that so that the people do not feel the pinch as hard as they ought to in the absence of a responsible government like ourselves. We have ensured that the surging fuel prices are also ameliorated by extending the tax holiday. And today, the fuel that comes into the country is not taxed at all. And that is why it is at the price that it is in terms of the pump price. But if we had restored the taxes which were supposed to be restored in June, it would have been something else. But today it is where it is because we're not collecting any taxes on it, just to ensure that we ameliorate the lives of our people in as far as the cost of living is concerned. So the economy is being worked on and the country is on the correct trajectory, and the leadership in place is a sound leadership, and there's confidence in it by the markets, there's confidence in it by the international community, there's also a lot of confidence in it by the local investors. We have introduced a new ministry of small-scale entrepreneurs, and this is making sure that we build as many Zambian entrepreneurs as possible, because we know that our economy, for it to be strong, it must be driven by the private sector. So we are doing everything possible to ensure that we rejuvenate the private sector, which will be able to grow and create employment. But we are also doing our part as a government to be able to provide employment where we can. And so far, we have implemented, for example, our campaign promise of employing 30,000 teachers, which everybody thought it would not be possible. And just last week, we employed 30,496 teachers. And day after tomorrow, on Friday, we are going to employ another 11,000 health workers. So we are on the correct trajectory.
I've actually, gotten some of the things that you have highlighted, and amongst which is the intention to actually, do away with cargo trucks and resulting to the use of the goods trains, if I heard you right. And on the other hand, the previous government, the cargo trucks were an avenue of, promoting the transport business and or awarding some contracts, to some, companies and persons. How do you plan to actually undertake this? And what is the plan as regards the cargo truck, companies, cargo truck owners? And how
Yes,
do you actually plan to achieve, the use of, goods trains?
the specific goods that we are intending to allocate to the rails, and this is copper, for example. The products that are coming from the mines are extremely heavy and they cause damage to our roads. And that is why when we put up, especially the cheap roads, the very cheap yet expensive roads that were being put up by our colleagues could not last, would only be a road for 8, 7 months and already gives in, starts giving potholes and all. That is because of the heavy cargo. And the heavy cargo is mainly the produce that is coming from the mines. And that is why it is important to put up the rail line all the way from the northwestern province, which is a new copper belt, through into the current copper belt, Lusaka, and all the way out to Livingstone, so that all the mining companies are able to transport their produce using the rails and spare our roads for other goods and cargo that is lighter and be able to be transported on the roads without causing damage to our roads.
Great indeed. Back, to the same issue of the economy. I think the great complaint that is coming from the people, alludes to the reviews, monthly reviews as regards, the pump price. Is there anything? Is there any plan that the government is having, concerning this issue?
Currently, we are going to stick to the monthly reviews. We have no immediate plans to abandon the monthly reviews. This is because we found a huge debt, well over $500 million that is accrued to the oil marketing companies. And for us to be able to liquidate this debt, we needed to ensure that the fuel pump price is sold at the price that is determined by the international market and not subsidize it, because we were subsidizing fuel with money that we didn't have. And in the end, we ended up accruing a debt of over 500 million and being owed to the oil marketing companies. And because we were not as able as a country to service this debt, that is why in the previous regime you are able to see there were a lot of fuel disruptions, shortages here and there. It is because of the same. But since we introduced the monthly reviews, we are not collecting taxes on it. So the price is being determined in accordance with the oil marketing, with the oil prices on the international oil market. So if, for example, the price of fuel per barrel drops on the international market, automatically our fuel pump price drops. So the monthly reviews enables us to monitor what is going on the international market, and if there's an increment, there's also an increment here. But once there's a reduction, there's also a reduction here. That's why you see those fluctuations. Whereas in the past, despite having reductions, it could not accrue to us as a country because of the way we handled the fuel situation. And that is how we ended up owing a lot of money, because even when fuel was cheaper on the international market, we continued to allow our oil marketing companies to sell it expensively because we owed them a lot of money. For now, what is happening on the international market is what also pertains on our local market. It goes up, we go up. It goes down, we go down.
All right, let me draw you, slightly away from, the economic aspect and bring you to corruption. What is the deliberate, policy that your government has in terms of the fight against corruption? We have seen a number of, interviews, interrogations here and there, which are construed to be, some persecution on, persons from the previous regime. We also have, corruption at, the citizen level, let's say in communities and the like, petty corruption and so on and so forth. How is like the deliberate policy that you have as regards the fight against corruption awesomely?
Awesomely is to fight the vice because we know that corruption, when it is being practiced at community level, it is the same corruption that graduates into grand corruption. So we have waged a serious war against corruption, and that is why even at petty level, it is also reducing with an aim of completely eradicating it. So far, yes, we have had complaints of culprits that have been called and interviewed for the actions they took, and they are claiming persecution. But nobody is being persecuted. All we are targeting is the vice, and if you're involved with the vice, you will be questioned. And if you are found wanting, you will be prosecuted. And if you are prosecuted and found guilty, the law will take its full course. Interviews are part and parcel of enforcing the law. Where there's corruption suspected, people are interviewed so that it is understood what exactly transpired. Remember that corruption is, at grand level is a white collar crime. And if you are not careful, you can take people for prosecutions before court with weak cases and end up achieving nothing but acquittals, which in turn become expensive because then the culprits begin to sue the government and get compensated for it. So we're making sure that it is a steady flow. We have given carte blanche to our law enforcement agencies, given them the freedom and latitude to be able to do their work professionally, void of political interference. We do not guide our law enforcement agencies on what to do. They already know what to do. They are trained for them, for these jobs. They know exactly how to go about their job, and we are not interfering in any way. The complaints that are coming from the culprits are neither here nor there because you cannot begin to ask people that were not in charge of public resources to begin to answer on how public resources got embezzled. So we need to find out what happened to the people's money, which are public resources, and the people to ask are the people who are in charge, are the people who are handling, the people who are discharging, the people who are controlling the public fund need to answer for what they were doing. For us, we have to make sure that we fight the corruption in the past, we fight the corruption presently, and we avert the corruption in the future. And so far, it is showing good results because in the last, the recently announced recruitment for teachers, for example, there were many emotions. If you saw many Zambians, young people from across the country, were very emotional and crying tears of joy because they say to themselves, we know nobody in government, we are not connected to anybody, we don't bribe anybody to be able to get an opportunity to be recruited. All we did was push in an application as advised, and we got selected. And this is so because we made sure that during that process, there was no iota of opportunity that gave any officer or any dealing officer to have an opportunity to ask for corruption or a bribe so that they put the people onto the list as teachers. So this is now beginning to go down into our communities and our homes where people are beginning to realize that if you do not engage in corruption, the results are better for all. But when you engage in corruption, the results are better for a chosen few and then are detrimental to the rest of us.
We have seen some kind of cosmetic, bureaucracies in some of the government agencies. If you want, for instance, to have a title deed, maybe you want to have a motor vehicle registered and so forth, you'd find that, there are these deliberate, kind of bureaucratic, processes to frustrate you so that, you cough out, something to the officer that is supposed to process whatever you want. What are you doing about such institutions as government to actually curb corruption? Because that is one of the sources, bureaucratic processes or even deliberate ones.
Yes, we are fighting the red tape, and we are moving all government services onto the digital platform using Smart Zambia. We have what we call the GRZ bus. So now we have made sure that there is no physical contact or money exchanging hands between the service providers, government ourselves, and those seeking the services of government, such as registering a motor vehicle and so on. So for you to do all this now, you just go on a digital platform and everything is automated, and therefore there's no chance for people to ask for bribes because it is automated and it is done digitally. And that way, as government, we are getting the full benefit and the people themselves are getting the full benefit. So even as you bring in your motor vehicle, you already know how much tax you're going to pay on it. You already know how long it will take you to register it. You already know how long it will take for you to move the vehicle from point of entry to a point of full registration. So everything is moving online so that there's nobody exchanging money, there's no physical contact with cash, and therefore the fight against corruption is yielding results because the moving of services onto the digital platform is what has made the people realize that it is a good system and therefore there is no need to bribe anybody and they can get their services without any problem.
I'd like to find out from you on the same corruption as you are, practically fighting it. Do you think we can completely, fight corruption and have it on a zero rate?
That is our aim. Of course, if you say that you cannot eradicate corruption, you can only reduce it. But our aim is to eradicate it. And that is why we are doing everything possible to ensure that all the loopholes are sealed, such as ensuring that no money is exchanged physically. Everything is done on a digital platform.
Brilliant. At this point in time, I'll invite my co-host, Lance, to actually come in and ask a couple of questions as we progress on this program. Remember, this is Ubuntu channel, and the program is Meeting Your Leaders. And tonight, we are actually hosting Mr. Thabo Kawana, who is actually, the media director, Ministry of Information. Lance, I throw it over to you at this point in time. Mr. Kawana, are you able to get me? Lance, are you there? Are you getting me?
We seem to have a bad connection with him.
Yes, I'm sure he's not able to get us, but as we are waiting for him, we'll actually proceed. And I can see we have lost him. He'll definitely join us again. Mr. Kawana, we have had some outcries from the members of the public that the expectations that they've had as regards investigations where corruption is concerned, and also the outcomes from the court processes have not been according to their expectations. As such, they are seemingly losing confidence in the judiciary. What is your take on, the people's reaction as regards this issue?
Well, ours is to urge our people to exercise patience. We know that they are in a hurry to want to see culprits taken to prison, but it is important to follow the law through. The wheels of the law grind slowly. but the crimes. And there are reforms taking place everywhere. We have a new Chief Justice in place, and the judiciary is also undergoing serious reforms. And the new Chief Justice is making sure that cases are heard expeditiously and adjudicated upon expeditiously. And therefore, all those that find themselves before the courts of law are are being are being prosecuted in record time to ensure that we do not waste a lot of time in our courts of law, where cases in the past would take 11, 12 years before courts. This time around, they will not take such time because we are ensuring that we are employing enough judges, we're employing enough magistrates, and creating enough courtrooms. Some cases in the judicial reforms have seen us come up with fast track courts. For example, there is a fast track court for traffic offences. There's also a fast track court now for economic crimes. So the reforms in the judiciary are working very well, and the law enforcement agencies also are working very well to ensure that they take culprits before the courts of law. The results may not be immediate, but there will be results that are satisfactory to everybody to ensure that everyone gets a fair chance at justice. Remember that everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and therefore the burden of proving people guilty is upon our law enforcement agencies to prosecute, to ensure that the cases that are taken before the courts of law are airtight. And the courts are also making sure that they avoid long adjournments and ensure that they deal with the cases as expeditiously as possible in record time.
That's a good intention, and we are looking forward to actually, seeing that. Lance, I'll invite you once again to actually, bring in the question or questions that you have at this point in time.
Thank you so much, Chaza. And of course, apologies. Network really did me bad. But however, a reminder to our viewers, the link will be shared with you shortly in the comments box. You can click on that link and join us right here in the studio to express a view, ask your question, or however, come and have a one-on-one with our guest right here in the studios. Plus, also, you can leave your comment underneath this broadcast. Mr. Kawana, you agree with me that the last time the Republican president dated with the media at State House, he urged Zambians to say, get your paper and pen and start ticking on the promises that we made, or that checklist, start ticking. And so far, Zambians have ticked. Teacher recruitment has happened. The kwacha or dollar has come down, though not to what was promised, but we still tick because dollar has come down, kwacha has appreciated. And then also, one thing that obviously the people of Zambia have complained about, of which the UPND have selected to say, no, this is the people that come through from the PF. But what we should note is that PF are also Zambians. So if they complain, they are Zambians. They've complained that the president has become a global trotter, just like the UPND back then in opposition complained of how former President Edgar Lungu was trotting the globe. This time around, President Hichilema is doing the same. What do we do with that part of the checklist? Do we tick that no more globe trotting, or we leave it on question mark?
Well, the last president, President Lungu, was globe-trotting, and we saw no results from those adventures. And also, if you look at the delegation he used to travel with, was extremely expensive on the part of the country. Whenever he traveled, you had a horde of ministers following, almost half cabinet with him, almost half permanent secretaries with him, almost half directors in ministries with him. And as though that were not enough, you also had musicians that traveled along to go and entertain them. You also had cadres that traveled along to go and, shop, go shopping there and literally waste, putting taxpayers' money to waste, and that is what we condemn. But if you look at the travels of this president, currently President Hakainde Hichilema, firstly, he travels with a very lean delegation. The maximum you see the president go with is two ministers, but usually he moves with one minister. You will not see a whole of technocrats following around. As our chief marketing officer, he has made it very clear that when he goes out there, there's no need for people to move with him in a whole day or the whole advanced team going there. You would have almost 100 and something people going. But this time around, when the president travels, you have the maximum number of, say, maybe 8 people that have traveled with him, and that includes the minister traveling with him and one or two technocrats, and the total number comes to 8. They basically fit on the presidential jet to go for a tour. But that time we had to hire a whole plane and fill up the whole plane plus the presidential jet, and that was costing us a lot of money. So now the travels of the president are also showing fruit in terms of wherever he goes, he comes back with goodies in terms of what accrues to Zambia. And as you have seen, our country has regained its respect on the world international scene. Just recently, the president returned from Europe, where he was accorded an opportunity to be able to address the European Parliament. He's been around to our neighboring countries as per tradition. He's the new president. He needs to meet his brothers around the regions and be able to get introduced. But also, he goes there not only for introduction, but for business. Each time he goes there, he links Zambian businessmen to the business opportunities in those countries and also invites business people in those countries and links them to business opportunities in our country. Right now, we are talking about people coming in to set up manufacturing plants for electric car batteries. But just yesterday, we had an investor also showing interest from Canada to come and put up plants in Zambia to come and manufacture the actual electric vehicles. So it shows you that every time he moves, he brings about opportunities in the country. Just yesterday, he was opening a nickel mine in northwestern province. This is as a result of investors coming in after having seen that the new regime is serious. And this is the biggest nickel mine in Africa, and it is going to employ well over 700 people. And this is what it means when you have a president traveling. That each time he goes out there, he must be able to bring some goodies for the country that accrue as benefits for the people of Zambia, with whom we serve with much pleasure.
All right, still on the checklist, or still going with the promises that were made. The president, while he's in opposition, promised that when voted into power, a bag of mealie meal is going to come at 50 kwacha. Prices of fertilizer obviously was going to come down to 250. Kindly give us an update 11 months into office. Where are we in attaining this?
We are, of course, in fulfilling our promise to ensure that mealie meal comes down and fertilizer comes down. This is going to be our first purchase of fertilizer as a government. This will be our first season, first agriculture season as government. And also, you must understand that for us to bring down the price of mealie meal, we have to bring down the cost of production. So this is our first farming season that we are getting hold of, and we can assure the people that from the first one on to the second one, the difference will begin to be seen because we're paying particular attention to how fertilizer is brought into the country, how much it is costing us, and what sort of fertilizer is being brought. Remember that in the recent past, with our previous regime, they had the audacity to give companies, so-called Zambian companies, but run by foreigners, which were given contracts to bring in fertilizer and given upfront payments. And they had the audacity of collecting money, millions in dollars, but not delivering. Some companies have not even delivered up to now from the millions they collected in the last farming season. So this is our first one, and we're making sure that we're going to give companies that are responsible and will bring in the commodity at the correct price in the right quantities. So we are on course in terms of bringing down the cost of mealie meal, which eventually is bringing down the cost of living among our people.
All right. So coming back to the issue of globe trotting, Mr. Kawana, I think you will agree with me that while it's in opposition, you offered counsel or guidance to then President Edgar Lungu to say some of these conferences or meetings or invitations, he can be attending them uh, virtually, not literally going there. What is different with President Hakainde? What has changed that with President Hakainde, he has to travel, and he himself that offered that guidance to former president cannot follow the guidance he offered?
There are many conferences that the president is holding virtually, many, and the travels that he's taking are extremely necessary travels. Just a few weeks ago, he was speaking to the Chinese president, and that was held virtually. He has attended many conferences virtually, and some that require for him to travel, he has traveled. But he should also bear in mind that there's a huge demand for him to physically attend certain engagements because of the way the world has received him and his style of leadership. And that is prudent management of public resources, fighting corruption, and ensuring that we ameliorate the lives of our people. We've become an example of good governance to the rest of the world, and that is why our president is sought after. So some of these trips you see him taking are not trips that are costing us as a government money, because the host nations are the ones footing the bill after having invited him to travel.
All right. Obviously, the issue of the cost of living or the economy has been dealt with. But let's come back to, I would still want to come back to that, especially the issue to do with fuel. Obviously, you know the famous container which the president was moving in when purchasing fuel, calculator, and everything to say we know the formula. When once we apply this formula, then fuel is going to come down, or the original price of fuel is going to be this. Have you worked, or are you working on cutting down or cutting off on the middlemen so that fuel can be cost effective for not only motorists but also many Zambians that depend on public transport?
We have cut down on the issue of the middlemen, and we have made sure that the fuel, or the cost of fuel, is the correct price. And I was speaking earlier on, and I was saying that what is obtaining as a fuel pump price is calculated based on what is obtaining on the international price for oil. Whilst in the past we found that the price for oil would plummet on the international market, but here it will not accrue to us, it will remain expensive here. But for us now, what is obtaining on the international market is what is obtaining as pump price to our people. So we are working extremely hard, but we are also affected by factors that we have no control over, such as the pricing at the international market itself. So the issue of an element of middlemen has been done away with. That is why the fuel is at the price it is. Remember that we have done away with the taxes, we have continued with the tax holiday on it, and we are paying off the oil marketing companies from the money that we are owing them. We are bringing down the debt that we have with the oil marketing companies, which was above $500 million, and it is slowly coming down. We are paying it off. And by the time we get to a point where we have paid them off completely, we should be able to see that even the price at the pump price will begin to get lower and lower.
All right. Lastly, on the checklist, Mr. Kawana, the UPND, while it's in opposition, spoke of or preached about a lean and a clean cabinet in office. But it's only in this administration that we are seeing four permanent secretaries, special duties. What's so special about having them four, and why has the new dawn decided it to be so? What's the relevance? Perhaps explain that to the people so that we may better understand and not complain.
Well, the element of special duties at cabinet office is not a new dawn phenomenon. That is part of the establishment. It has always been there. So what we have done is that we have fulfilled the establishment. So Cabinet Office sits on four special duty permanent secretaries. These are permanent secretaries that are what you would call permanent secretaries without portfolio. So there are issues that require to be done expeditiously, and we have to beat the red tape. And you find that the line ministry permanent secretaries are held up in many other things that they have to do, and therefore the special duties permanent secretaries take up that particular duty to ensure that what ought to be done is done expeditiously, and there are no lapses and no delays. So you have seen, for example, there have been reshuffles. Those that were special duty permanent secretaries have been moved, reshuffled. For example, the permanent secretary who was at Cabinet Office, Mr. Nicholas Piri, is now the permanent secretary at local government, and the one who was at local government has moved to Cabinet as special duty. So special duty permanent secretary are like what we had in the past, where we had a minister without portfolio. So the permanent secretary are basically your permanent secretaries without portfolio that conduct special duties that arise from time to time to ensure that there are no delays in rolling out government programs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kawana. At this time, let's get to engage our viewers that are watching this particular broadcast. Remember that we have shared with you the link in the studios, in the comments rather. Join us into the studio, make a comment, share a view, and of course, express yourself on what we are discussing. Remember, the topic of discussion is the performance of the New Dawn government so far. So we are talking about 11 months of the New Dawn in government. So Chipindani says, Mr. Kawana, when are we likely to see enactment of the Freedom of Information Bill? And secondly, how is the government dealing with issues of foreigners buying land and displacing Zambians who, for example, have occupied the land for 3 decades? All right, thank you so much, Chipindani. Mr. Kawana, please be taking note. We'll be taking 3 before we let you in. So take note of that question. The other one comes through from Wellens Miola. He says, I'm watching from UK. The achievements of UPND in 7 months budget are free education, Cadarism crampdown, CDF increase, teacher recruitment done, rule of law, single-digit inflation from 22%, equity cabinet rather, debt restructuring, international credibility, the IMF deal done. Now, these are my ticks in 7 months budget of the UPND government. I commend the government's effort. They are on course and positive trajectory. The fuel is global. It has nothing to, I'm sure it continues. But anyway, I think the idea is gotten. Can we get another comment from another person? We've already gotten from Chipindani. Do we have any other person? Director, do we have another person? Chipindani, we've gotten his comment. Oh, okay, let's read it. What mechanism has the government put in place to ensure that information on government projects and any other relevant information reaches even the remotest part of Zambia? Thank you so much. Mr. Kawana, I'll allow you to respond to the questions that have come through before we take another set.
Yes, I think the first question was asking about the Freedom Information Bill. I can assure you that it will be done by the end of the year. It is going to Parliament. Right now it is at Ministry of Justice getting drafted, and it will go to Parliament, and this administration remains committed to ensure that it is brought into fruition. And just today we had a meeting this afternoon, and the permanent secretary was reassuring members of the Zambia Liaison Committee for Media that the bill will be ready and will be done away with by the time we get to the end of this year. we are not afraid to bring in the freedom of access, the access to information bill, because we know that it does not only benefit the people out there, but it also benefits government. It is a beneficial bill that enhances information, both for the government and for those that are being governed. So we are determined to see to it that it comes to fruition. Over the land matters, we are carrying out a land audit currently, and by the time we are done with it, we will make sure that firstly Zambians are able to get their title deeds on time, and then also ensure that foreigners are not allowed to buy land, but they are allowed to come in and partner with our Zambians. They may bring in the finances which they have, but our Zambians' equity is that they will own the land. And that's what the president has been preaching from day one, that we need to have partnerships between Zambians and foreign investors, and our equity in the business is actually the land. So we are determined to ensure that no foreigners are allowed to procure land, but that they are allowed to bring in their investment, and the land remains in the hands of Zambians, and they need to partner with Zambians in order to see their businesses go forward. The second one was categorically what we have achieved so far, and I'm grateful that he has mentioned and shown the ticks that include the increase of CDF, that includes what we're doing with the IMF, that includes the element of capitalism having been done away with, and it shows that we are on the correct trajectory and is happy with what this government is doing. Chipindani came back and also was asking how we are making sure that information is going out to the people in the remotest parts of our country, that we are ensuring that we have got radio transmission, television transmission in all corners of the country. Even where there was no signal, we're ensuring that signal is put there. So far, we have built and erected provincial television centers and ensuring that radio signal, television signal is there, and our people are able to listen to the news, are able to follow government programs, and we are making productions of our government's achievements and projects and opportunities in all local languages, so that our people, even in the remotest part of our country, are able to understand, participate, and join in. The last one was asking about, I forget, sorry, what was the last one asking about?
All right, so I think that was the last one from Chipindani. Let's get to have another set, Director, of the messages that have come through. All right, so Lawrence Mulungu.
The police yesterday, what has changed? Simply leadership. Simply leadership. Leadership has come in place, and we have ensured the rule of law. And the police now know their role. And their role is not to brutalize the citizens. And citizens have a right, they have their rights enshrined in our constitution. And if they conduct themselves within the bounds of the law, the police will police them in accordance with the law and not brutalize our citizens. And you know that, for example, what happened yesterday compared to what happened in the previous regime, lives were lost. Yesterday, not a single life was lost, not a single person was brutalized, not a single person was arrested, not a single bone was broken. Everybody went home, they came, and
we actually had two people that were arrested, Mr. Kawana, and those
yes,
are UPN.
those people were believed to be UPND cadres that wanted to misbehave in the name of trying to assist the police. But none of the people from the other side that escorted the former First Lady were arrested. This is a case of heavy provocation, heavy insults, and seriously provoking the police literally. But the police remained calm and steadfast and ensured that the process was seen through and everybody went home.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kawana. Let's get another set of questions. So Ruben says, what's your comment on the minister's asset declaration at the filer's office? The famous filer office is back, Mr. Kawana. Okay, let's get to...
The filer administration is never miss. Well, The ministers have filed in, but remember that that is why earlier on I had said that all members of parliament, including ministers, have filed in their declarations, because for you to stand as a member of parliament in our country, you must file your declarations with the Electoral Commission of Zambia. For you to stand as a president in Zambia, you must file your declarations with the Electoral Commission of Zambia. That is why I say everybody had filed. There's another element where now you need to file with the Office of the Chief Justice, and ministers have complied and filed with the Chief Justice.
All right, Mr. Kawana, thank you so much. We've been joined in the studios by Lawrence. I think apart from commenting, he wants to have a word with you. Lawrence, good evening and welcome.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Kawana.
Good evening, Lawrence.
And good evening, Chaza.
Good evening, thank you.
All right, Mr. Kawana, I think it's really a honor to have a question, to have this one-on-one chat with you, and I would love to get some comments from you, especially on the impending health workers recruitment that has been postponed for quite a number of times. And at this point in time, I think the last time the government communicated that there was a postponement, that was last week on Thursday or Friday. The comments that were coming in from the general public were seemingly suggesting that they are now getting used to being lied to in that area. Can you confirm at this point in time that the promised Friday we should have the said recruitment this time around, unlike any further postponement and all? And then secondly, I want to know what the government thinks of some of the infrastructure that was done by the previous government. In this case, I want to say, especially the traffic cameras that were installed not so long ago by the previous government that seem to be not in use up to now. How far are we with that infrastructure, and when do we see it come to use, to its use? Thank you so much for that.
Thank you,
All right,
Lawrence.
Lawrence, thank you so much. Before you answer, Mr. Kawana, we also have Wellens. He's joined us in the studio. Director, if we can have Wellens, and then we let our guest to respond to the questions. Do we still have Wellens, Director? Well, Mr. Kawana, I think Wellens has gone. You can attend to Lawrence's questions.
Yes, I want to say that firstly, for the cameras, they are a matter of investigations. They were shrouded in a corrupt deal and being really looked into, so that we talk about the issues to do with the tenure, and also looking into the issues to do of who runs what and who collects what revenue. And once that is done, they will be put to use. And as far as the health workers recruitment announcement is concerned, on Friday it will be done. The names will be published on Friday. We took a bit of time, and as you would appreciate, having 11,000 people selected out of over 100,000 is not easy, and it is also a little bit complex, because here we are dealing with health workers and not just doctors and nurses, but a whole spectrum of the faculties that combine together to give health its stature. So you have got within there nurses, you have got doctors, you have got drivers, you've got security guards, you've got cleaners, physiotherapists, mortuary attendants, and all those that work together to form a health sector. So we are choosing 11,000 people out of over 100,000 plus applications. So the process took a little bit long, but that is because we had to make sure that it is thorough and the correct thing is done. Just the same way people felt when we were talking about teacher recruitment, that we kept postponing, but we told them that, look, it is not easy. We have to ensure that the correct thing is done and there's a fair process to it. And when we announced the names, everybody has agreed with us that there was a fair process to it. The same will happen on Friday when we announce the 11,000 people who understand that there was a fair process to it.
Mr. Kawana, just also on that trail, in making sure that the correct thing is done, how prepared is government in terms of sending names to the print media so that we don't witness what we witnessed in the teacher recruitment, where certain NRCs were appearing twice or three times, one NRC with 5 names? Has government already sent those names to the print media so that we avoid that mistake?
The proofreading is being done currently so that once it is given to the print media, it is printed and we avoid any of such problems. But those are teething problems, they're expected. You know, we had 30,000 plus people being published, and the newspaper that day, which usually carries about 10, 12 pages, was actually carrying 124 pages. So you really expect that you can have such kind of bishops, but they were cleaned up and everything sorted out. So equally what is happening during this process, we're making sure that there's enough proofreading so that what is published out there is not problematic.
All right, Wellens, good evening. Welcome to Meet Your Leaders on Ubuntu channel.
Good evening, Lance. Am I heard?
Definitely, you are audible.
Oh, thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Kawana. Thank you. Nice to have you this evening. As Lance said earlier on, I'm one of those who is actually ticking what the president is, said on inauguration, because he said he find a notebook, and I have my notebook, and I'm ticking few things that are going on, and I'm happy at the moment the way the things are going. And the only thing that I want to ask from your department, media, as a media director, is I was watching your interview with Innocent, and I'm worried about some media houses which are non-factual, which are not are misleading the public, to be honest, because they are not actually telling us exactly the efforts of the government. They are saying the government has done nothing at all. Everything is gone in the shambles. And what do you do with such type of media which are misleading the public from the all the strength and efforts of the government that are happening? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I want to agree with you that it is unfortunate that some media houses are really unprofessional and they do not carry out research, and they have a tendency of receiving questions from non-characters just to try and embarrass the government on the airwaves, and that is rather unfortunate. But to deal with such, we have got the IBA, the Independent Broadcasting Authority, that is the regulator of all media houses in the country. And where there's a professional misconduct, the IBA comes in and they're able to censure. So I'm sure that they monitor the interview and they should be able to censure the concerned media house.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kawana. Let's accommodate one last call and one last batch of messages, as time is not really our best ally. Good evening, Natsengu.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, everyone in the studio. Good evening, Mr. Kawana. My only worry is I don't see you as a media director, whether for ZNBC or for UPND or whatever, right? Ensuring that messages that are, are coming from the party, that things that the party are doing well are not reaching the grassroots, and hence what what's his name, Lance and the other fella are talking about. We need, as UPND fellas or as people working in the government, there are some things that the government is doing, but if me who lives in Chawama or lives in Chavuma doesn't know about how can I know about them? I think that is your weakness as UPND. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nyansi.
No, I hear you, Nancy, and your comment is well noted, and we'll ensure that we endeavor to improve on information delivery to ensure that our people are kept to speed with what the government is up to.
All right, thank you so much, Chaza. Time is never a best ally when things are getting, when things are getting hot. Time is never a best ally.
All right. Yes, of course. And just before we close, I would like to find out from Mr. Kawana there. In terms of the law reforms, the Public Order Act was seen to be a problem when, the UPND was in opposition. And right now, is it still a problem? If indeed it is a problem, what is a problem with the Public Order Act, and what reforms are in contemplation as regards the Public Order Act?
Well, the Public Order Act is said to be an archaic law that was used by our colonial masters to keep the natives in check so that they do not congregate easily and do not organize easily. So in opposition, the UPND condemned this act and called that it should be reformed and amended. And UPND now in government has called for its amendment and is currently receiving submissions from all concerned stakeholders on what ought to change and how they feel it has to be done. So we remain committed and steadfast, and once submissions are received, the law will be redrafted and amended so that then the Public Order Act begin to work for what it is intended for, and all stakeholders are happy with it. One of the characters of the Public Order Act is the implementation of it. If you have got bad people in government, they will take advantage to use it badly. But when you have good people in government, you find that the Public Order Act works smoothly. Currently, you have good people in government, and that is why it is not as problematic as it were then. Right now, you're not finding people being infringed upon. People are enjoying their freedoms, people are enjoying their rights, using the same Public Order Act that was used to tramp upon their rights and freedoms by the previous regime. But we cannot depend on having good men in government for us to have a law that is good for everybody. We need to have good laws that are able to compel both bad people and good people in government to do only that which the law allows them to do and is satisfactory to our people. And that is why we are amending, we are calling for the amendment, and we have called for submissions, and people who submit and eventually come up with a law that the Zambian people have said unto themselves, this is what we want and this is how we want to be governed.
Mr. Kawana, like my colleague has indicated, time is not our best ally. At this point in time, we would like to indicate to you that we are profoundly humbled, full of gratitude, and highly indebted to you for according us a chance to actually be with you on this program. And we look forward even to having you next time right here on this platform. Thank you so much. And Lance, you've been so good also. I greatly appreciate and actually make cognizance that you've been good companion. Not forgetting, the participants, Jonathan there, Wellens, Lawrence, Ruben, Nachisengu, and others that have actually, participated. We greatly appreciate. For now, we are saying till next time, God bless you. We are out of here.